What if scientists found something alive that shouldn't exist? Not rare, not unusual, but completely unexplainable by everything we understand about biology. Here are 10 biological anomalies that scientists still can't explain. There is a species of jellyfish called Turritopsis dohrnii that appears to completely defy the natural cycle of life and death. Instead of dying after reaching maturity, this organism can actually reverse its own aging process by transforming its adult cells back into an earlier developmental state. In controlled observations, scientists have watched it revert all the way back to its juvenile form and begin its life cycle again, essentially resetting itself instead of dying. This process, known as transdifferentiation, shouldn't work the way it does at this scale, and researchers still don't fully understand how its cells are able to reorganize so completely. In theory, this means the jellyfish could continue this cycle indefinitely, making it biologically immortal under the right conditions, which immediately raises a bigger question about why other organisms can't do the same. Deep in tropical forests, a parasitic fungus known as Ophiocordyceps unilateralis infects carpenter ants and begins altering their behavior in ways that seem almost deliberately controlled. Once inside the ant's body, the fungus spreads through its tissues and eventually takes over its motor functions, forcing the ant to leave its colony and climb vegetation to a very specific height and location. At that point, the ant locks its jaws into a leaf in what researchers call a death grip, and it dies shortly after. The fungus then grows a stalk out of the ant's head and releases spores down onto the forest floor below, infecting new hosts. What scientists still don't fully understand is how it controls the precise movement and timing, essentially turning the ant into a vehicle for its own reproduction. It doesn't just affect the host, it directs it, which makes this one of the most disturbing examples of biological control ever discovered. There are rare individuals who are born with a condition that prevents them from feeling physical pain entirely, a disorder known as congenital insensitivity to pain. At first, it might sound like an advantage, but in reality, it's actually incredibly dangerous because pain is one of the body's most important warning systems. Without it, people can suffer severe injuries, broken bones, or internal damage without even realizing something is wrong. Scientists have traced parts of this condition to specific genetic mutations that affect how pain signals are transmitted. But what remains unclear is how the rest of the nervous system continues to function normally while completely disabling such a critical survival mechanism. It's a reminder that even something as fundamental as pain isn't fully understood, and that the body can operate in ways that don't follow the rules we expect. In 1956, scientists studying canned meat that had been sterilized with radiation discovered a bacterium that should not have survived at all. This organism, later named Deinococcus radiodurans, is now known as one of the most radiation-resistant life forms on Earth. It can survive exposure to radiation levels thousands of times higher than what would be fatal to humans by rapidly repairing its DNA after it has been shattered into fragments. What makes this even more confusing is that its natural environment doesn't typically expose it to extreme radiation, leaving scientists to question how such a powerful repair system evolved in the first place. Some researchers believe its resilience may have developed as a byproduct of surviving extreme dehydration, but even that doesn't really fully explain its capabilities. It's an organism that continues to challenge our understanding of how life adapts and how far those limits can really go. In one of the most shocking medical cases ever recorded, a man went to the hospital with relatively mild symptoms, only for doctors to discover that the majority of his brain was missing. His skull was largely filled with fluid, and the remaining brain tissue had been compressed into a thin outer layer. Despite this, he was living a functional life. He was able to speak, work, and carry out daily tasks. This completely contradicts what we understand about how the brain is supposed to operate, where specific regions are responsible for specific functions. Scientists believe the brain has some ability to adapt and reorganize, but not to this extent. Cases like this suggest that the brain may be far more flexible than we ever imagined, which opens the door to questions we don't yet have an answer for. Tardigrades, often called water bears, are microscopic organisms that can survive some of the most extreme conditions known to science, including the vacuum of space. When faced with environments that would normally be fatal, they enter a suspended state where their metabolism nearly stops, allowing them to endure extreme heat, freezing temperatures, intense pressure, and radiation. Scientists have exposed them to outer space directly, and incredibly, many of them survived and continued functioning afterward. While researchers have identified certain protective proteins and mechanisms, the full process that allows them to endure such extremes is still not completely understood. Their existence challenges the idea that life is fragile and suggests that it may be far more adaptable than we ever assumed. In forests across the world, scientists have discovered vast underground networks formed by fungi known as mycorrhizal networks, which connect the roots of different trees and plants. Through these networks, species like Douglas fir and paper birch trees have been observed exchanging nutrients, particularly carbon, depending on seasonal needs. In controlled studies led by researchers like Suzanne Simard, trees were shown to send chemical warning signals through these fungal connections when under attack from insects, allowing neighboring trees to increase their own defenses before being affected. While the existence of these networks is now widely accepted, the full complexity of how information and resources are shared is still being studied. Some interactions appear almost coordinated, suggesting forests may function less like separate organisms and more like interconnected systems, something that challenges the way we traditionally define communication in biology. In coral reef ecosystems, species like the clownfish exhibit a remarkable ability known as sequential hermaphroditism. These fish live in strict social hierarchies where a dominant female leads a group of males. If that female dies or is removed, the largest male in the group undergoes a complete biological transformation into a female. This change is driven by shifts in hormone levels, particularly estrogen and androgens, which trigger the restructuring of reproductive organs and behavior over time. Another species, the bluehead wrasse, can undergo a similar transformation in the opposite direction, changing from female to male within days. While scientists understand parts of the hormonal process, the speed and completeness of these changes remain difficult to explain. It's a biological flexibility that directly challenges the idea that sex is a fixed trait in all organisms. In 1951, cells were taken from a patient during treatment, and something completely unexpected happened. Instead of dying after a limited number of divisions, as most human cells do, these cells continued to grow and replicate indefinitely. Known as HeLa cells, they are still active today and have been used in countless scientific studies around the world. While scientists understand that certain mutations allow these cells to bypass normal limits, the full reason for their resilience and continued survival is still not completely understood. In a way, they represent a form of biological immortality, raising questions about what truly defines life and death at the cellular level. In laboratory experiments, scientists have studied Physarum polycephalum, a slime mold that exists as a single-celled organism with no brain or nervous system. Despite this, it has demonstrated the ability to solve complex problems, including navigating mazes and finding the most efficient path between food sources. In one widely known experiment, researchers recreated the layout of Tokyo using food sources, and the organism formed a network that closely matched the city's real-world rail system. Even more surprising, studies published in journals like Proceedings of the Royal Society B showed that the organism could anticipate recurring environmental events and adapt its behavior accordingly. When two slime molds merge, they can even transfer learned information to the other. Scientists still don't fully understand how this is possible without any centralized processing system, making it one of the most compelling examples of intelligence emerging in a form that really just shouldn't support it. Kinda cool and really, honestly, terrifying. All right, guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I will see you again soon. Bye!